welcome to Web of Stories. My name is Melinda, and today I am here with my June wrap-up, my yearly goal check-in, and a very small July TBR. So let's get started. So the month of June was a fantastic reading month for me, even though I did have a couple of books that didn't work so well. But overall, it was fantastic. I read 19 books, which is a high for me this year, and I didn't have a single DNF. My average rating was a B+. It was actually a 3.8. For those of you who haven't been with my channel or haven't seen how I do this, when I rate books, I give them a letter grade, like in school, from an A+ down to an F. And then there's a star value correlated for that because everything works on stars. So I think of it in terms of letter grade, but then I can give you a star value. Of those 19 books that I read, 11 of them were print books, 7 were ebooks, and there was 1 audiobook. Oh, now the genre breakdown. Genre breakdown, that's hard to say. I read 7 historical fiction novels. I'm looking over here because I have my laptop going with everything so I don't forget things. 3 general fictions, 2 mystery, 2 horror, and then 1 each of thriller, and then nonfiction history, romance, memoir, and fantasy. Now, there are some classifications that are not genres. Some people call them genres. They are not genres, and I don't track books as genres in these, but I make a note of them. The first one is graphic novels. 2 of the books I read, 1 romance and 1 general fiction, were graphic novels, and 3 were classics. I'll tell you what the classics were when I get to them. I know there was at least 1 historical fiction, 1 general fiction. Well, we'll get to them. So let me get to the books, break down by grade, starting from the lowest to the highest. There were 2 books to which I gave a C. The first was Where the Lost Wander by Amy Harmon. And I'll put a link to my video review of the books that I have video reviews for down below. There's too many to put cards up, so it's just going to be in the episode description. But I do have one for Where the Lost Wander. And then the other book was The Madwomen of Paris by Jennifer Cody Epstein, which I do not have a video review for because it was a NetGalley review and I didn't feel okay doing a negative video review for that. However, my written review is available on Goodreads and is now on my blog. I didn't have anything that was a C+, and I had 2 books that were Bs. One was Bad Kids by Zijin Chen. This is probably one of those cases, like, it's a fantastic book. Just, it wasn't my kind of book. That was just a preference thing. And then The Pioneers, the historic story of the settlers who brought the American ideal west by David McCullough. This was my nonfiction history. Great idea. I just think the scope was too small, and then he tried to widen it by covering too many people. I had 1 book that I gave a B+ to, and that was The Dark Angel, which is the 10th Ruth Galloway book by Ellie Griffiths. And then I had, let me count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 books that got A's. And these are all in the order that I read them. So the first one was East of Eden by John Steinbeck. I did this with a read-along with Erin Go Live and Marcella and a few other people. I will tag them down below. I really enjoyed this book. This was my first Steinbeck novel, although I had previously read Travels with Charlie, which I loved. So Steinbeck might be one of my new authors. And then The Girls on Chalk Hill by Alison Belsham, which was a NetGalley review. I have the link of it down below. And it has been released, so I have the video. The review video for it. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey. This was another classic. And this I'll be talking about more in the future when I can go down to actually see the movie. I have it on hold at the library because it's not streaming anywhere. It hasn't come in yet. And then once I watch the movie, I'm going to go down to my hometown of Salem, Oregon, where the book was set and the movie was filmed. And we're going to tour the museum at the mental hospital, and I'll do a little vlog. So more on that one to come. And then the next 2 are my 2 graphic novels. One was Wash Day Diaries by Jamila Rosser and Robyn Smith. This is just about 5 interconnected stories about 4 African-American women about wash day. That's the day that they do their hair. That is something that was a thing that was unfamiliar to, I mean, obviously I wash my hair, but you know what I mean. It was really interesting. I quite like that one. And the second was, and I'm the last person in the world to read this one, but Heartstopper Volume 1 by Alice Oseman, which I did really like, even though it's YA, and I am not reading a lot of YA right now. And then after that, I had The Lost Journals of Sacagawea. I do have a video review for that one. It's by Deborah Magpie Erling. And then The Twisted Ones by T. Kingfisher. I had originally given this one a B+, but then I moved it up to an A the more I thought about it. What kind of put it to a B+ originally was nothing to do with it. It was just the order in which I read T. Kingfisher's books. It was just circumstance. And then the next one was Lone Women by Victor LaValle. And finally, I did it, guys. On June 30th, I finished Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, only to find out that the series is not streaming anywhere, so that is also on hold for me at the library. But it took me exactly 6 months. Well, 6 months from when I started to when I finished. There were times when I put the book down for a while because I had other stuff I needed to read, but that's how long it took me to finish the book at the rate I was going. And then I have 5 books that I gave an A+ to, but there is an asterisk on one of them. The first one was The Murmur of Bees by Sofía Segovia. I read this for one of my book groups. And then the next one is the one with an asterisk, and it's Clarke and Division by Naomi Hirahara. So I originally read this last year, the year before when it came out, and I gave it an A+, and I'm sticking with an A+. However, this time I listened to it because one of my book clubs discussed it, and I will admit I did not enjoy it as much the second time, but that was because of the narrator. So if you choose to read this book, don't do the audiobook. That's just my opinion. And then I had The Lincoln Highway by Amor Towles, which was a big surprise to me because I didn't expect to like it based on the synopsis. 12 Years a Slave by Solomon Northup, and finally Body Grammar by Jules Oman, which was the last book that I finished in June. So I'm doing some events, some booktube read along events. The first one is the Big Book of Summer, and that goes from Memorial Day weekend to Labor Day weekend. And this month I have 4 books that qualify for that. And that's just anything that is at least 400 pages. And the books that I have for that are The Murmur of Bees by Sofía Segovia, The Girls on Chalk Hill by Alison Belsham, The Lincoln Highway by Amor Towles, and The Madwomen of Paris by Jennifer Cody Epstein. Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell is not in this one because I didn't start it in that time period. I actually started The Murmur of Bees like 2 days early, but that was because I couldn't put it off because it was for a book club. So that's why I counted that one and not Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. The next one is June on the Range. And I read 3 books that qualify for June on the Range, at least in my mind. The first was Where the Lost Wander by Amy Harmon, followed by The Lost Journals of Sacagawea by Deborah Magpie Erling, and finally, Lone Women by Victor LaValle. I know a lot of people did Lone Women, which is great because it's a great book. I recommend it. For June on the Range, I think The Lost Journals of Sacagawea and Where the Lost Wander are probably ones you don't see as much because everyone's definition of Western can change a little bit. Mine is not necessarily cowboy books. Those are pioneer books or Lewis and Clark books, but to me, they qualify. And then because June was Pride Month, I had 2 Pride reads. The first was Heartstopper, Volume 1 by Alice Oseman, and the second was Body Grammar by Jules Oman. Okay, so let me talk about my stats so far. So my reading goal for the year was 144 books. I have currently read 84. I think I'm ahead by 13 books. My own TBR count is 770. That includes print, digital, and audio. That is up 10. That's not the direction I want to be going. However, I am not concerned about audiobooks in this. I'm only concerned about print and ebook. My print count is 165, which is up 2 from last month. Again, the wrong direction. And my ebook count is 533, which is up 3 from last month. Again, the wrong direction. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. So I had 3 goals that I set for this year. And the first one was 144 books, and I already talked about that. I'm 13 books ahead on that one, so that's awesome. And then my goal was to get my own print TBR to be 150 books or less, which means I should, at this point in my June, be at 160. I'm at 150. Or no, it should be at 150 and I'm at 160. So no, let's do this again. It should be 160 and I am at 165. That's what I'm trying to get to. There's too many numbers in that. So I'm 5 above where I need to be, which means I really need to kind of buckle down and either read a lot more print books or quit buying them. One of the two. Fortunately, I think it's going to have to be the former because I can't seem to handle the latter. And then finally, in 2022, about 25% of my reading was from own voices, authors, and I wanted my reading in 2023 to be at least 30%, and it is currently at 35%. So that's great. I am doing great on 2 of those goals. And the third one I need some work on. So that's where I am for this year and this month. Now, in July, I have I'm kind of leaving my pile of possibilities loose, but I have a number of books that I really am going to make a priority to read, a number of print books that I have a priority to read. So let me go through those. Switch my order up here for a sec. So the first one is The Scarlet Letter. The book Cougars are doing Scarlet Summer. So we are reading The Scarlet Letter and then Hester and then The Invisible Hour. So The Scarlet Letter is July. I have read this book so many times. I'm the weirdo who loves this book. And I have this book tabbed up, ready to go. And then even though I have the physical book, I think I'm going to do audio this time. I've never done an audio of The Scarlet Letter, but I have read it so many times that I think I'm just going to do audio. Just try something new. But yeah, The Scarlet Letter. And I know not everybody loves this book. In fact, I know most people hate it, but I love it. So I am so psyched, so psyched for Scarlet Summer. Scarlet Summer. So the next book is kind of in Scarlet Summer. I think it's on the bingo card. I'm not actually doing the bingo card because I refuse to watch the Demi Moore adaptation. Like, I'm sorry, I won't do it. I do know that in the Demi Moore adaptation of The Scarlet Letter, they give it a Disney ending, which I really have problems with. But anyway, the next book is sort of with it and kind of not. As I said, we're leading up to The Invisible Hour, which is Alice Hoffman's. I don't think it's a retelling of The Scarlet Letter, but it definitely deals with The Scarlet Letter. But it's set in the same world as The Red Garden. And I had heard Chris and Emily talk about that on an episode of Book Cougars. And this is an Alice Hoffman who I love. This is one of her books that I have not read yet. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. Maybe I don't have that one. It's too bad. And then I think I was listening to it on my way to the library, and our library has a little, used bookstore, where the Friends of the Library has a little bookstore, and I always stop in there. And this was there. And it was like, I have to read this book. It's a sign. So I'm definitely going to read The Red Garden this year. I will probably read this. I don't know when I'll read it. I think I'll probably start The Scarlet Letter today, maybe. We'll see. And then read this when I'm done. Something like that. I don't think this ties into The Scarlet Letter. It ties into The Invisible Hour, which ties into The Scarlet Letter. So then my next book, it's kind of still related to this, but it's not Scarlet Summer. So Alice Hoffman, as I said, is one of my favorite authors. And one of my bingo squares is read a favorite author's favorite book. And I was reading an interview somewhere with Alice Hoffman, and she said her favorite book was The Wide Sargasso Sea, which just happens to be a book club book for me. Like, isn't that awesome how that works out? So I will finally be reading The Wide Sargasso Sea, which is a book I've been meaning to read for a very long time. It goes along with Jane Eyre. If you haven't read Jane Eyre, read Jane Eyre. Come on. If you haven't read it. Read Jane Eyre. But if you've read Jane Eyre, this is about it's about Bertha. That's all I'm going to say. It's about Bertha. And then this book you've seen before because it's been on my pile of possibilities for 2 months now and I haven't gotten to it yet. That's Murder on the Orient Express. I've gone 2 months without an Agatha Christie. I don't know what's up. I got to get this one done. So this is definitely happening this month. Again, this is the first Agatha Christie I've read where no, that's not true. Okay, this is the first Agatha Christie I've read where I've already seen an adaptation of it. I was unfortunately, I was going to say it's the only one that I've read where I knew the ending, but that's not true because David freaking Suchet, Perot himself, spoiled the murder of Roger Ackroyd for me. This is the first one I've read where I have already seen an adaptation. I've also seen an adaptation of Murder of Mesopotamia, so that one's still coming up, but I already know who did it, but I'm still interested in reading it. And then finally, this is a little confession time. So if you watch back a while ago when I was like freaking out when I realized how many books I owned I hadn't read, I unhauled a handful of books that, I said I'm unhauling them, but I'm not taking them off my TBR. I'm just going to take them to the friends of the library and have them sell them. And then I'll just get the digital version to read. I did take them off the shelf and put them in the pile still upstairs, hasn't gone to the friends of the library yet. And this is the next book in the Ruth Galloway series. So I just pulled it out of the pile and I said, fine, I'll just go ahead and read this. So yeah, this is Ruth Galloway number 11, which will be the only one I've read in print. And then I will donate it once I'm done. So that's what I'm doing for print and in one audio. I would love to hear, I'm starting to see everyone's June recaps and July TBRs. So I'm really interested in seeing that. If you do not have a YouTube channel, which that's fine, you don't need to have one, but tell me what a book that you're planning to read this month. And if you have, let's see, if you have made it all the way to the end of this video, congratulations. Give me an emoji of your favorite fruit, or at least your favorite fruit that has an emoji. There you go. Thank you very much. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.